Hello everyone, Anton here, and you are on the Blackroom channel. In this video, my friends, I will explain to you why soundbars are complete trash. Be sure to watch until the end because there's an amazing gift waiting for you and of course a cool alternative. Let's get started. Let's go. Let's start with what a soundbar, or soundbar as some call it, actually is. Essentially, it is a long speaker of fairly compact dimensions, which is usually placed somewhere under or near the TV to improve its sound. But sometimes these soundbars are complemented by a wireless subwoofer, which you can place somewhere completely different in your room. Just plug it into an outlet, and it will wirelessly play the bass from this soundbar, making everything sound significantly fuller together. There are also soundbars that come with two additional small speakers, which you can place somewhere on the sides or at the back to create a supposed surround sound. We will soon discuss how surround it actually is. Soundbars also come in different form factors for various installation locations. For example, wall-mounted soundbars that hang directly under the TV when your TV is also mounted on the wall. Tabletop soundbars, which are placed in front of the TV when it is on a stand. There are even so-called TV bases on which the TV can be directly placed with the soundbar right underneath them. But all these form factors share one goal. A soundbar should improve the sound of your TV and ideally create surround sound in your room. But they don't do this very well. And now I'll explain why. The first problem with the soundbar lies in its very nature. This is especially true if it is a standalone panel without any subwoofer or rear channels. You place it under the TV and the sound comes only from the front, and from a rather narrow area. Sometimes it's even narrower than your TV panel itself, resulting in a rather narrow soundstage, and of course there's no surround sound or good bass to speak of. Most often such a soundbar cannot be upgraded, you cannot add anything to it, neither a subwoofer nor rear channels, you are simply limited to what you bought in the store. But even if the soundbar has the capability to connect a wireless subwoofer, or maybe it even came with one, it will most likely be a specific model from the same manufacturer. You will be able to purchase it and somehow improve and make the sound of this TV-based soundbar more substantial. The same applies to the rear channels. If you want to create something like a 5.1 system, you will need to buy from the same manufacturer and most likely a specific model of these wireless surrounds. You can place them around your left and right ears, but even then, you will need to run power to them because these speakers won't work without at least one power cable. Accordingly, no other brands, no other subwoofers, any rear channels, and of course you will not be able to connect any additional front channels to, for example, widen the stereo panorama. You won't succeed, you are always very much confined to the specific ecosystem of the given model from the given manufacturer. This, well, let's agree, is not a great investment. The next point about the average soundbar is its rather poor and thin sound. It cannot even be compared to the most inexpensive audio system, consisting of a simple amplifier and two bookshelf speakers that sit on a shelf, like those bookshelf ones. And all this is because the components used in the production of these soundbars, just imagine, it's such a small stick, sometimes it's very thin, so what good speaker can you fit in there? Sometimes it seems to me that my iPad Pro sounds better than some cheap soundbar in the M-Video store. Honestly, you turn them on and just think, why bother? Sometimes the TV sounds better than this cheap soundbar. They cost 30, 40, 60,000 rubles, all those things that are mainly sold in stores, but most of these things do not really improve the sound significantly. And moreover, it will never compare even with the most inexpensive stereo system, which you can also buy, place next to the TV, and even listen to music. To enjoy and of course to watch TV programs with great quality. Therefore, these components, these little speakers, are most often very inexpensive and of very low quality. Imagine if it costs us, say, 30,000 rubles, then how much is it in terms of cost price? So that the distributor, the manufacturer, and the store all make a profit. Therefore, the components here significantly affect the quality, and most often they are not used very well. The next point is surround sound, which is very often claimed by the manufacturers of most sound bars. Even this one panel alone supposedly plays surround sound, creating it virtually somehow. I'll tell you this, it's all nonsense. Well, actually, this little stick is not capable of creating the effect of even full-fledged 5.1 surround sound. But a simple, inexpensive 5.1 system, even if it consists of small speakers with a single subwoofer, will perform significantly better, simply because you can physically place them in the correct positions and they will play from different directions. Yes, undoubtedly there are expensive models of subwoofers from some manufacturers like the Sennheiser Ambeo, which have drivers facing in all directions. They have spent a long time designing these and use various DSP processing to make you virtually believe that you have some kind of acoustics playing from the side or from the ceiling. But again, this is very, very individual. In one room it will work, in another room it won't, because you might not have walls on the sides, for example. Your TV might be along a wide wall and you won't hear those reflections that could create this volume, or your ceiling might be too high, which this soundbar is not designed for, and you won't hear this artificial surround sound effect or the creation of space. And really, what is there to say? All soundbars only perform well in small rooms that are confined by walls. Where you have your TV, you sit quite far from it in this small room, and generally the narrow sound coming from the TV doesn't bother you. In a large space, a soundbar simply cannot fill the room with sound, unlike a regular stereo pair of good speakers. And of course, friends, let's not forget that all soundbars are quite low powered. But what kind of power can such a tiny speaker handle, which, as a rule, there are several of in each soundbar? Their power is limited, and we won't throw around any numbers here. Just take and place a soundbar and a stereo system next to each other and turn them on at full power. Just a couple of inexpensive stereo speakers. I think you will be very surprised. The next argument is probably one of my favorites. It's good bass. We have discussed this topic multiple times on our channel in relation to household subwoofers, professional ones, and how the physics of good bass works in small rooms. If you find this topic interesting, be sure to subscribe to our channel and then follow the link to watch these videos. I think you will discover a lot of new and interesting information, but if we simplify everything, a single subwoofer in the room can play well, and that too if it is finely tuned with an equalizer, mainly for just one viewer. But for your large sofa, where your family sits, the bass is likely to be uneven, and on some notes it will hum and be annoying. All this is because you have one subwoofer, and two subwoofers with a soundbar usually never come together, and you are unlikely to be able to add a second one. And even if you somehow manage to do it, setting them up or integrating them together will be absolutely impossible, because the system is simply not designed for such complex configurations. And let's not forget about the stereo enthusiasts. From a soundbar, you will only get something remotely resembling stereo sound if you bring it this close to yourself at arm's length. Because only in this mode will you get the coveted 60 degrees on the left and right channels, which you need when you want to listen to a high-quality stereo system. This is another downside for those who want and think they will be able to listen to stereo music properly and adequately by just buying a soundbar. Overall, I believe that a soundbar is an unsuccessful attempt to immerse you in the world of cinema, in the world of good sound. For this to happen, the room really needs to be specially prepared. It should have a separate audio system placed in the right spots, with individual speakers in the necessary quantities, a certain number of subwoofers for good, even bass throughout the listening area, proper acoustic design, correct colors, and finishing materials. This is exactly what our company Blackroom does. We build real home theaters. If you have already realized that a soundbar is definitely not for you and you want a real home theater or even a cinema hall, follow the link and write directly in the chat to our manager. Everyone who submits an application and writes the code phrase "I want a gift" will receive a free preliminary design of their future home theater and an additional 50,000 rubles for the working design. Quickly follow the link and leave your application. But those were not all the drawbacks of soundbars, friends. Let's continue. Next is the fact that the soundbar has a limited number of inputs. Most often it has just one HDMI input, which you can connect, or an input-output that you connect to the TV and only get sound from the TV. Sometimes there is an additional one, so you can connect another device to it and have good sound, not only from the TV, but also, for example, from your PlayStation. This greatly limits the ability to get great sound if you have a range of devices. Some Android boxes, a Blu-ray player, or something else. Most often, you won't be able to output sound to this device with maximum quality. In contrast, for example, to even an inexpensive audio-video receiver, which usually has at least 6 HDMI inputs on board, well, to implement such functionality on a soundbar, you will have to buy some external HDMI switches, switchers, and suffer. Of course, there are some decent examples among soundbars. You can find a pretty good sounding piece from some famous hi-fi brand for a couple of $1,000s, sometimes even without a subwoofer. This soundbar will give you and bring you pleasure, especially compared to the built-in sound from your TV. But to choose this gem, you need to have a good understanding of the hi-fi and high-end fields and have a keen ear. Even just by going to the store, you can listen to 10 soundbars and you won't notice the difference. And if you have no one to help you, and I don't consider consultants as helpers, but a friend who really listens, who understands the difference and can evaluate and recommend a specific model, not just because they need to sell it and make money, but because it truly sounds great, then you might end up buying the wrong thing and suffering later, especially when your friends come over and say, "Man, what did you buy? You should have called me, I would have helped you." So you need to know your stuff to buy a decent option. Personally, I am, of course, spoiled by good sound. We have an awesome showroom at the company where we have a full Dolby Atmos setup 9.1.6 with 4 subwoofers, but comparing such a system to any soundbar is simply incorrect. Therefore, in my opinion, no soundbar plays well. Perhaps I am mistaken and just haven't encountered this example of a brilliant soundbar construction yet. But friends, correct me in the comments, please write which soundbar you think sounds really great. Friends, if you are striving for good sound and have already realized that a soundbar is probably not for you, then I want to offer you a couple of alternatives that will give you more pleasure even for comparable money. The first option is to buy a pair of active speakers, a pair of modern active speakers like Edifier. They currently have some very good options, including ones with ribbon drivers, which I personally really like. You can place such speakers to the left and right of the TV. Even if your TV is wall-mounted, it's not a problem. Modern active speakers have all kinds of inputs, sometimes even an HDMI input, and you can wonderfully replace a soundbar with this pair of great-sounding stereo speakers. The second option, which I have already mentioned, is precisely the 5.1 system in a box. Yes, they are becoming less and less common now, but when you correctly place the speakers around the TV, give a wider angle, closer so that you can at least listen to stereo, place the center channel under it, and a couple of rear speakers and the subwoofer in a proper place where it won't hum, you will get significantly more accurate surround sound for completely comparable money. And a future-proof option is to get an inexpensive audio-video receiver and at least start with the same 2 stereo speakers. Well, if you have the money, you can immediately get a center channel. This will greatly enhance the quality of the front soundstage, because the center channel is the main speaker in a home theater system. More than 85% of everything happening in movies comes from there. This way, you will lay the foundation and base for your future home theater. You can later add rear speakers, then you can add rear surround speakers, and if your receiver is not the simplest one, you can also add ceiling channels for Dolby Atmos format. Moreover, it will be a true Dolby Atmos format, not some virtual one designed to reflect sound off the ceiling. And this was Anton, the founder of Blackroom, on the channel where we talk about everything related to home theaters, cinema halls, and cinema hall construction. Be sure to catch us in new videos and don't forget to like this one if you found it interesting and useful. See you all later.